Нова 3-годишна програма за соработка отвора Швајцарската амбасада во Северна Македонија по успешното завршување на 10-годишната програма во која се инвестираше во повеќе сектори. Швајцарија како пријател на нашата земја, програмата ја отвора повторно за трите важни столба: демократија, економски развој и животна средина. Добре дојдовте во уште еден Лавиринт, јас сум Атовска. Оваа недела Лавиринтот ќе го посветиме на македонско-швајцарските односи. Со мене во студиото, на моје огромно задоволство, амбасадорката на Швајцарија, Вероник Хулман, која дојде овде во студиото на медијата да поразговараме, како што кажав, на неколку теми поврзани со македонско-швајцарската соработка. Швајцарија е пример по многу работи во светот, не само за демократија, и во зелени политики, можам да кажам, стремеш за сите останати европски држави. Miss Hulman, thank you very much for joining my show and for coming to my studio. It's my pleasure to have you here.
It's also my pleasure to be here, so thank you for the invitation, Christine.
Always. So let's start first with Macedonian-Swiss relations in the past 30 years. Last year, actually, we marked 30 years of our diplomatic relations. So how would you assess the relations between our two countries, and how would you assess the progress of North Macedonia, considering the fact that we had 3 turbulent decades behind us and still live in a turbulent time?
Okay, that's quite a difficult question. Not the first part of the question, though. So the relation between Switzerland and North Macedonia even started before, so actually in 92, just after the independence, because also of the big crisis that you have, socio-economic crisis. And with humanitarian aid, we wanted to help the people of North Macedonia to overcome the crisis. And slowly we developed those relationships with their country, which have multi-facets right now. So we have the development program, and we're going to talk about it later, I think. But we also have very, very good political relation between our two governments. We also have relation in the cultural sector. Of course, we have some Swiss investors also in the country. And I have to add this, there is a big diaspora from North Macedonia in Switzerland, about 100,000 people. So there's also this relation people to people, which in a way enhance and flourish also the relation between our two countries. The second part of the question is a very good question, because looking back, you need to think of where you are. So I was not here 30 years ago or even at the independence. What I can hear, it was extremely difficult at that time. And that's why actually Switzerland started with humanitarian aid to be active in North Macedonia. So if you look back at those times, definitely there was a lot of progress. I would also like to mention, because it's quite extraordinary in this region, is the Ohrid Agreement. There was also a peace agreement, if we can say it that way, and there was not, like in many other countries in this region, a violent conflict that lasted for long. So I think that was also a major improvement in the region. Now, there were a lot of crises that affected this country since I've been here and slightly before. If I think of the COVID crisis, and I think you had a lot of victims in North Macedonia, also the energy crisis due to the war in Ukraine, also affected badly your economy in the country. So there are many challenges out there. So it's not easy for a small country to really overcome all those challenges. Switzerland tries to support the government, but also the civil society, the parliament, the media, the journalists, to try to overcome together those challenges and to find joint solutions to the challenges that your country is facing. So yes, it was turbulent. I think you're not the only country like that, but it becomes the normal. So you need to learn on how to overcome together all those challenges.
Yes, we're still not out of those turbulent times.
No, unfortunately not.
Our current situation with Bulgaria and our efforts to get into the EU that are not that successful. So in the past 3 decades, Switzerland has invested over 360 million Swiss francs, if I'm not wrong, in support to the reform process of the country. So Switzerland supports North Macedonia in 3 domains: democratic governance, economic development, and water and environment. So which results or achievements are you particularly proud of?
So I think we are proud, I should say we, because I've been here only for 4 years and there's a whole team there and they've been working for all those years. I think the Kočani wastewater treatment plan is something that Switzerland is very proud of because it's a very innovative wastewater treatment plan with solar panels, but also biogas to really make it more independent and in a way to be able to operate in an independent manner. It has become a kind of a model for the country, but also for the region that we can also duplicate somewhere else. And I think that's a very big story that we have. But of course, we have many other stories. And when I was thinking yesterday, which one should I tell? Except this one, which is very visible because you have the infrastructure being there. Maybe I would mention the parliament. 10 years ago, Switzerland, together with our local partners and of course the parliament, we created the Parliament Institute, which has been operational for 10 years now and provides some research and quality research, but also training to the staff of the parliament and to the MPs. And I think this institute contributed to improve the work of the parliament. I would also mention the civil society registry. I mentioned at the beginning that it's important that different actors work together to find the right solution to a problem. Not long ago, also thanks to the Swiss support and the good collaboration with the parliament, we managed to create the civil society registry in the parliament, where you have about 100 civil society organizations registered, and actually they can interfere, they can interact with the MPs and also participate in the work of the parliament. And here we also have the TV channel. You're also a journalist, so I think also the TV channel of the parliament and the website also contribute to democratize and to reduce the gap between the MPs and the parliament and the citizens, because the parliament has to represent the citizens. I can mention many others, like in Gavdilia, we have also the wastewater treatment plan. In Berovo, we have also a wastewater treatment plan. In Delchevo, a modern drinking, it's, how do you call it? It's a plant for drinking water, but completely new with quality water that we've done in Delchevo, also in Gostiva. So there are a lot of successes out there. And now just thinking, I would think I could speak for at least half an hour just to mention all of this. But that's one that I visited not long ago through the Balanced Regional Program with the Ministry of Local Self-Government and the region. We have contributed to renovate 3 hospitals, partially some hospitals, 2 in Ohrid, one for the rehabilitation of people who had an accident with a swimming pool, with solar panels, also for that part of the hospital to work. The other one is for cardiovascular disease, and also we rehabilitate the whole wing of the hospital, and now the patient can be there all year long, and also the one in Ressen. So I think it's also very important to improve the health services of the country. And the last one, and maybe I mentioned this, because the elderly, we don't speak a lot about old people. In Berovo, we contributed also to build the elderly home for, I think, about 50 elders now. It's not a lot, but it's a beginning. It's good infrastructures and facilities. I think there's a huge need also for the old people. They need to be taken care of, for the families who cannot take care of them. And when I was there and I met those old people, it was really nice and I was really touched. I really liked also this because it's a small one, but it makes a difference for the life of very important people.
Yes, that's for sure. Well, thank you very much for everything you are doing in this country, because of course health system here in North Macedonia is pretty much devastated, and we could see that now after the fire in Kočani. We had more than 100 patients sent abroad for taking their treatment because we're not able to give it to them. So everything, even the smallest drop in our health system makes a huge difference for all of us. Well, you mentioned the Parliamentary Institute. The work of the Parliamentary Institute is clearly visible. We can all see that, as you mentioned, the channel, the collaboration with the civil sector. But what else can we take, like experience or practices from Switzerland, and make this democratic society even better? We're still fighting with corruption. We're not on a good road, to be honest. because we can see improvement. We have an active civil sector, but again, we keep struggling with the attitude and with the acts of our MPs. So what other practices can we include in order to support our democracy even more?
I don't know if this would be a practice, but I think what is key is to reconnect people with the institution and to reestablish that trust. So what I have explained with the parliament through the TV channel, the website, but also the registry of the NGOs, is that it's very important that the parliament connect with the need of the citizens, that they can listen to the citizen, and this is being used to really develop the legislation, also to do the oversight work of the parliament. So I think this connecting the citizens to institutions through more participation, to a monitoring of what's going on, through more debate between the decision makers and the citizens is really key for any kind of democracy. In Switzerland, we have the referendum, which is an instrument that we use very often. So basically every 3 months, we will vote on a topic or several topics. I don't think this is possible in all the countries, but our citizens, if they want to, they can really influence the decision makers. So here you need to find a way of doing it. And I think you're a democracy, so the instruments are there, but it's for all actors to use those instruments, to start with the citizens, to be interested in what's going on for the country, what's going on in politics, for the civil society to organize themselves and to really engage with the decision makers, to lobby, but to represent the interest also of the citizens, but also for the institution, being the parliament, but being the government or being the justice, to report back to the citizens and to say what they do, how they do it, and what they could do or not could do. So then the second keyword beyond connecting and participation is transparency. It's very important that those institutions are more transparent and they really report on what they have done, with how much money and which kind of result and success. So this is very important also, this transparency and accountability, they go together. And then inclusion. You need to have all segments of society included. You cannot exclude those not having power and having those who have more power, more relations to decide for the others. So also here you have mechanism to include, we discussed about the elderly, but of course the young generations need to be there. It's their country. They want to build their future in this country. So we need to listen to them. The authorities need to take them on board and also to empower them. We need to know from the economic sector what they want to do, what they need also to grow. We need to listen from the children, from the students in terms of education, what is working, not working. So the last word will be, or the last two words will be debate and dialogue in safe space, that everybody can discuss, express opinion in a respectful manner, and you can be heard and you can then start exchanging opinions and finding a compromise. So then that's the most difficult one. How can you find a compromise that will not serve the best interest of all groups, but it's the best that can serve all? So this compromise culture that we have in Switzerland, starting with the government, because we'll always have the four major political parties being in the government, so we don't have an opposition position. They're all in the government. They have to agree between the left and the right and the center. They have to agree at the government level, at the parliament level, at the cantonal level and municipal level. So this compromise culture, even with the system that you have, opposition position is okay. But then it's very important to have a dialogue and channels of dialogue between the different political actors to find the best way for the country. What is the vision of the country? Where this country wants to go, how do we overcome economic crisis, energy crisis, social crisis, and so on. And then citizens and civil society needs to be on board. And of course, the private sector.
Well, that's pretty difficult in this country for our political actors to have one opinion or to agree on something.
But I don't think that it means to have one opinion.
I mean, they agree on raising their salaries when it comes to that,
But maybe I wouldn't be black and white. I think when you go at the municipal level, there's more leverage for the citizen to really interfere. That's the same in Switzerland. It's much closer. So if you have access to drinking water, or if you have access to waste management services, or if you have a road or no road, you will have the impact directly on your daily life. So you can also organize yourself and ask the authorities to discuss and to debate about this. So in a way, you need to be 2 or 3 to dance or to tango. So yes, the decision makers, very often we hear they do whatever they want. Okay, But then if you don't want them to do whatever they want or they feel that is important for them, you need to find a way to engage with them. So you need to organize yourself, and you need also to use, for example, the civil society to really monitor and really bridge those two. At the municipal level, it's much easier. And one of the reasons that you asked me before that we are proud of is a community forum. So the community forum is a platform where citizens from a municipality, together with the authorities, can actually discuss and exchange on priorities, on type of project they want for the municipalities, and then they decide jointly another kind of joint monitoring. It's working. It's working in many municipalities in North Macedonia. So you have those good practices already here. It's how you can share those good practices with the rest of the country. And lately, the Ministry of Local Self-Government has prepared a new law on decentralization, local governance. I don't know exactly the name of the law, but they have decided to include the community forum in that new law that still has to be approved by the parliament. But then it's one step. So there was good practices, and this good practice is in the law, but of course you need to implement it, and you have to make sure that implementation is there. And if it's not there, then some kind of pressure should be exercised on the authority to make sure that they deliver. So this is democracy, basically.
So basically, active civil society.
Active citizens, civil society, and decision makers listening also to them. And of course, the oversight and sanctions. You mentioned corruption. So there is a kind of culture of impunity. It's how to overcome this. So this has also to be changed. When you talk to a lot of politicians, but civil society, ordinary citizens, they all mention corruption. For the government, corruption is a priority. They want to combat corruption. So the oversight and the sanctions is really key. So this also has to play a role. And of course, you have justice. It's complex. You cannot be there overnight. That's why you need to have a vision of what you want to reach in the long run. And this is also why when we engage on development cooperation with some program in North Macedonia, like in any places in the world, we engage on a project for 10 years usually. So really accompany the changes with a bumpy road very often, but try to convince as many actors as we can to move in the same direction or the direction they have decided to take jointly for the future.
Well, you just finished 10-year-old program, and now you just launched a new cooperation program for 2025-2028. So can you tell us more about the priorities of the new program? And is it only meant for institutions or also for the civil society?
Of course, it's meant for all segments of society, but I will come to that. So there are three main pillars, if I can call them that way, in our new cooperation program. The first one remains democratic governance. So here we will continue strengthening the parliament to become more transparent, to become more accountable and accessible to the people, but also for them to exercise more oversight over the government, because that's also the role of the parliament. So we will continue to work with the parliament, with the municipal councils, because also we are decentralized state. So we believe also that decentralization brings democracy closer to the people. So we'll continue to support not only the municipal council, but the municipalities in strengthening their capacities, having more projects, but also engaging with civil society. We also work with the State Election Commission, because having well-organized election, competitive election is key, and trusting the result of election is very important. And this is also a change that you were saying, what has worked during the year. Also, the State Election Commission is delivering very well during election. I mean, they do organize very good election. There's no more violence, and in a way, nobody questioned the result of the state election at the end of a round of elections. We will support civil society. We'll continue to support civil society. We have the Civica Mobilitas program that will come, I think, in 1 year or 2 years to an end. But we are already thinking of preparing then the succession of Civica Mobilitas, which has been a program that lasted for 15 years. So civil society has a key role to play, but not only to deliver some services to the citizen, but also to listen to the citizens, to represent their interest, and to represent this interest toward the decision makers and to influence the decision makers on what to do. So it's also to empower civil society as actor of change. Then the second pillar that we have is economic development. We have not talked a lot about this yet. So it's to continue supporting the small and medium enterprises to become more competitive, to improve their productivity, and also to help them with the green transition. So this will continue to do. And the second part, which will be important in the economic sector, is to help the country or the private sector to access the skills that they need for their own business. So on dual vocational training, but also other types of program, we will try to match the needs of the private sector with the competencies and the skills of the young generation, but also women needs to be involved there. And the last one, it's environment and climate change. So here, management of water. We are in climate change, so sustainable management of water is key for the country. We can see with hot temperature, it's very hot today. It's only mid-June, early June. So there's less and less water. So as a country, if you want to see the future for your economy, for the people, for the nature, you need to manage well water. So water management will continue to be our priorities. Strengthening the capacities of the municipalities through the public utilities in the water sector will continue to be a priority. Adding now, as a main focus, it was already in the past, but now it will be everywhere where we will work with municipalities, this green part, so energy saving or green energy for the water utilities. And biodiversity, protecting the nature. So we had also a program for 10 years in Breganitsa. We will continue consolidating the result of the program, now helping also to implement the plan that were developed, like the national protected areas. All the plans are there. Many people have been trained, but the means and resources to really implement those plans are missing. So we also help the country to access international funds, plus national funds, and some from Switzerland, to protect the nature in North Macedonia, and also to use this nature, not only for the nature per se, but also as an economic resource for tourism. And so sustainable tourism will also be supported. That's more or less the three big areas. But since you're also a journalist and on ID Media, culture, we have decided to provide a longer type of support to the independent cultural scene in North Macedonia. We have just launched a program 2 weeks ago. So this program had 3 goals: is to strengthen cultural organizations over a period of 3 to 4 years, and to continue supporting the production of artists and culture. So culture is key also in a democracy, to have a space where you can show, discuss through art a lot of society, economic or political issues that is difficult to discuss somewhere else. So culture will also be a priority of the next program.
Yes, that's another place when we have a huge problem, media sector. It's also devastated these past years. So, I mean, it has never been good enough, but now with the development of internet and new technologies, everything is a little bit more messy than before. Well, you mentioned education and dual education. You had some programs for connecting private sector with the educational system. So in your opinion, what needs to be done in order to ensure a quality labor force and decent jobs for people? Because young people, they are leaving this country mainly because they cannot find a good job, or not just good job, they cannot find a job in their according to their education. So it is a huge problem. So we keep listening about young people going away from the country.
Indeed, and it's not only that the young generation cannot necessarily find a job, but the private sector cannot find a labor force neither. So it's on both sides.
It's both ways problem.
And you have said it. So we try to really connect the education sector with the private sector. You have also mentioned, so everything goes very fast, internet, but new technology. Now we are in a world where everything is changing almost on a daily basis. So it's very difficult to know already today what the private sector will need as skills and competencies in 10 or 20 years down the line. So what should be done, and we have started to do it, and there was good result, is that the private sector needs to play a key role in the education sector. They also need to influence, especially vocational training or dual vocational training. So connecting and giving a bigger role to the private sector on what kind of skills they need and how to give these skills to young generation is, I think, the priority number one. So the private sector has to be connected and has to play a very important role in skills development, dual vocation training. The second part that I think needs to happen, and we have this in Switzerland and we have practiced this also in your country, less theory, more practice. So now it has a lot of theoretical knowledge, but it's very difficult to know when you are in an enterprise what to do now concretely. So it's to rebalance a little bit, to have much more practical experience, but also skills versus just theory analysis and so forth, to really find this equilibrium for the private sector, again, to have the right workers that can start working from day one. And if then you put all of this together, you come to a system of dual vocation training where the students could actually spend even more than just 1 day in an enterprise, but 2 or 3 or even 4. In Switzerland, you spend 4 days in an enterprise, 1 day in school. I mean, we still have a long way to go, but that's the only way, in a way, that the young generation, when they learn their profession, at the same time, catch up on all the new technologies, innovation in their branch, and they do develop with the sector they're working in. So this, I think, is very important. So private sector needs to have a key role in especially secondary schools and vocational training, but also at university level. It's very important that academia also connect with the private sector, because research and development is very important for any kind of economy. And again, for tertiary education, to have more practice and also to really engage with the private sector is also very important.
Do you see will in private sector in North Macedonia to include in this kind of program and in this kind of educational system or learning?
It started slowly, but you'll be surprised. More than 500 companies are now connected to our program, which is also implemented by the Ministry of Education. So 560, if I'm not mistaken, private enterprises are already part of the program. Some very active, having the students in the companies, also looking at the curriculum, also lobbying for some changes. So there is an interest. And I think the private sector has understood this. But the system has to be more flexible to really give them more space to really, while protecting, of course, the right of the workers. But this space and this leadership is still not completely there, but I think there is an interest to take it. And we're working a lot with the Chamber of Commerce, for example. They also want to engage much more with the government, with the Ministry of Education, of Economy, to also have this active dialogue and exchange with the decision makers. We come back to what we said at the beginning. What is democracy? Is really to bring people together, and they really need to exchange, to also oppose different opinions, but that's the way actually to lead and to find the best solution forward. That's the same for vocational training and the private sector.
Ms. Hulman, let's talk about, now it's lately my favorite topic, green politics and green topics. Yeah, you mentioned a few times Switzerland helped the country create a national groundwater register. It helped many municipalities get water supply, wastewater treatment, sewage system, invested in protecting the ecosystems such as Bregalnica, as you mentioned. So what was the cooperation with the institutions like? Are you satisfied of this cooperation with the institution? And are the institutions now, their capacities are increased sufficiently so they can run the programs furthermore without your help?
So we've been working in the environmental sector for decades. So the collaboration by default, when you look at all those years, was good. Otherwise, we would have stopped working there. But I have to be honest, it was a bumpy road. It's not always easy. And sometimes we had excellent collaboration with the central government, sometimes a bit less, and then we will work more at the local level or a bit more with civil society. So, but all in all, at the end, we need to collaborate and to have partners. Otherwise, we don't achieve any results. So being at the central government, the local authorities or the civil society. So again, in all those programs and those that were successful, this partnership in the long run has produced the result that we expected. Maybe it was much more slower because of many reasons. One of them being capacities. That's true. There's a lack of capacities everywhere in all the institutions. We try to invest a lot in enhancing those capacities, also in digitalizing some processes also, because to gain time, and yes, you have less and less people working there. But you have migration, and you have mentioned this also. So unless the young generation is motivated and wants also to continue this, then we will face a problem. So we also try to tackle this issue of capacities in institutions, how to motivate people, how to keep them, how to provide also some better working conditions. So we need to engage with all partners to really find a solution for a problem, environment protection, water, which I think is very, very important. Without nature, the humankind cannot survive.
It's more than important. It's crucial.
It's survival.
Yes,
I mean, it's all survival.
Especially water topic.
Water, but not only. I mean, we have climate change, pollution. And I think in North Macedonia, many people living in cities knows that. When you are in Skopje or in Teto in winter, everybody is complaining about the pollution. You have impact on the health of elderly, of the young children, but on everybody. So everybody is unhappy. So they see that you have to do something. It's related to waste management. It's relating to having also renewable energy. It's relating to the type of cars, traffic that you have. It's related to urban plan. There are many factors for that. But I think people did sense that is important to start protecting the nature and to really improve the way we treat nature, in a way, if I can put it that way. But at the same time, we're never completely ready to make the step because, yes, there is a small sacrifice. If you have to walk half a kilometers instead of taking your car, if you need to take a public transport, if they're not taking the car and turning for 1 hour to find a parking space in Skopje. So there are something that you need to change. And this change of mind needs to happen. And I think in the future also we will try to work much more with the young generation, with the children and the youth, because they are more sensitive, they are more ready and more flexible also. And when you look at all the surveys for the young generation, they are concerned about the environment because they know they will pay the price. They're already paying the price, but it's going to be worse in 10 or 10 years down the line, being for water, being for pollution, being for climate change. So they want to engage much more. So maybe empowering them and giving them more power, but also the tools to protect nature, to recycle, to close all those illegal landfills could also give them better conditions. In North Macedonia, nature is there. Protect the nature, you feel better, and the nature will give it back to you, I feel. So it's also one of my favorite topics. But unfortunately, when you look globally, it's a very big challenge. But again, step by step, I think everything is slow. We know this. This is development cooperation. This is transformation processes. But keep the energy, engage with the young generation, with everybody. You will always find drivers of change, or those that I call the champions. You always have some. Identify them and give them the means or the resources to move their agenda. And the environment, you have a lot of people, civil society, young people really engaged in environment protection, and they're ready to do it. But also the private sector in Breganica is protecting the nature, but also creating touristic opportunity for the region, and also the private sector is also interested to that. So they also see why it's important to protect the nature, and when you respect the nature will give back to you.
You have a lot of youth activism, as you mentioned. A lot of young people are now into this topic, dealing with this, but they get discouraged by the institutions and the institutional blockages. So how can we erase that disappointment and basically convince them that they should keep doing what they're doing without getting discouraged?
Get together, organize yourself. Again, civil society can also help, but it doesn't have to be NGOs. It's civil society at large. I mean, citizens getting together for a cause. If you look at the last Generalka, it was a big success in comparison to when it started a few years ago. So yes, there are a lot of obstacles all the time, but it's to keep the strength and the energy and to find orders, because when you act together collectively, then the energy of others also feeds your own energy. If you're only 1, 2, or 3, then you cannot move much. But there is ways of putting pressure. It's not easy. I'm really aware it's not easy. It's not easy in my country neither. But nothing
doesn't look like that.
Well,
when we talk about Switzerland, we can say that it's an example for everything: democracy, green politics.
But still, democracy is always a challenge, and you always have those having more power and less power. So to maintain this balance, those having less power, less influence, less education, they need to mobilize, they need to organize themselves, they need to find a way to influence decision makers, but also to make decision makers accountable when they don't deliver what they need to. So there are a lot of instruments. It's not easy. I'm not naive, not at all. But I think you should not quit. You need, because Switzerland is my country, North Macedonia is your country, is a country of the young generation. They need to fight for their own future in this country. And they will find a way. But there are some actors, and Switzerland is also there to help them doing this. But again, in a way of dialogue. Is not attacking, is we try to find ways of dialogue, and you have some mechanism in place, use them. Know the law, know the mechanism, ask for them to be implemented. Go and ask, I don't know, the mayor, the municipal councillors. Many places now, all the debates in the municipal council are registered because Switzerland also supported this. Ask, why this argument? Why not that? Why didn't you push for this? So there are a lot of ways and information that can be used, but you need to organize this. And somebody has to take the lead for that, including the business.
We have the active civil sector, but again, you can see the capital and the waste and the trash everywhere.
Yes.
So it doesn't look like a capital. We have a huge problem with this, and when we talk about these topics, we only talk about the trash in the cities, on the mountains as well, because we cannot say that they are clean. I have seen a lot of trash places in the middle of the mountain, which is really shameful, to be honest. But we talk about air pollution, but the world, meanwhile, is talking about global warming and some big politics to change the whole society. So how can we first talk about the problems of global warming and the solutions of global warming when we cannot get rid of our trash in the center of the city? And how can we motivate people to think of these topics and to get actually that this is very important for all of us?
I don't think I have the answer. I'm not Macedonian. I would love to, though, but
No, we're looking for answers from Swiss people.
But I think everybody is unhappy. There are now some money and big programs. Switzerland is also contributing to a grant of this big national program on waste management with the EBRD and the Ministry of Environment. And there's also the EU doing part of it. Something is happening. It might happen. There's a lot of lack of information and knowledge of what is happening. There's also a lack of resistances for many reasons and from different actors. So informing, answering the questions, and now letting those programs happening and being implemented will be key. I'm not pessimistic. I think on waste management, because it's so bad now, that there is a reaction. There are programs being there. There are still a lot of obstacles, but I think because the situation is so bad that in a way, being the government, being the municipalities or the citizens, they cannot let this go forever. Now it's time to take actions. The means are there. So now let's start to implement what was decided, where there is some money for that. If I think of the EBRD loan and also from the EU support and the Switzerland, now start implementing it. And maybe I can come back in 5 years. I want to be optimistic. But again, if those plans are there, the ministry knows about it and tries to implement. But if citizens and civil society don't support those efforts or ask when they have questions, when they have concerns, because there are also concerns, because you don't trust the authorities, or you fear there's corruption, or if you have a new landfill is not going to be well managed. So then what can you do as citizens or civil society or stakeholders to make sure that if you build a landfill, that it will be well maintained? If it is not the case, you react and you ask your authorities then to change your practice.
Yes, but when it comes to waste management, they usually hide the agreements, or so we cannot get to clear information. And even if some journalists get with research to that information, then again leads nowhere.
So why don't you ask these questions to some of the mayors and maybe to some of the ministers to see what they can answer to that?
Oh, we know the answer. It's always the same.
So what is the answer?
It's always the same. We're working on it. We do everything we can.
And keep track. And
But again,
I know it's very difficult, but it's important.
we go out of the facility and we see trash everywhere.
Yes.
Winter comes and we can not see each other outside because it's so polluted. So
Yes.
we keep having the same problems over and over again, and they keep saying the same things for 30 years over and over again.
I don't know, but when I listen to you and they will have to deliver, we're waiting for them to deliver. Can we break this logic? They don't deliver, so let's put pressure. And you have mentioned, as a journalist, you put pressure, but it's not enough. You need to have you need a critical mass. I'm talking about the citizens also. So civil society, journalists and citizens to force a dialogue and to say, now enough is enough, and we need to see what together we can do, what we can help as citizens, and what we expect from you authorities, and tell us what you can do and what you cannot do. This is democracy. It's difficult. It's also difficult for me to answer to this question because I was not raised here, I'm not part of it, and I know there are a lot of constraints there. But keep hope and continue fighting for your rights in a way. That's the whole thing. And engage with the decision makers for them to understand and then to deliver. And if they do deliver, then of course they will be re-elected and they will have even more influence and good reputation. But if not, it could have also some consequences that you don't vote for those people. But we enter in another topic here, which is much broader. So let's stop here.
Yes, when we talk about how we care about our country, I feel really ashamed. As I mentioned, I see trash everywhere, even up in the mountains. So, So I don't feel good when I talk about this topic, considering.
And I fully understand you because I feel like it's an aggression when you go into nature and you have those illegal landfill. And I'm a hiker myself. But then who leave the trash there? It's not the government.
Exactly.
So the citizen has a responsibility. I'm even not talking the big land, but even on the small part in the forest. A bottle here, a plastic there, they are citizens. So coming back to education, so we need also to educate, and people should start feeling ashamed of that. So it's how people can understand the harm that they do to the country, to their nature, and to themselves and their children. So this mind shift has to happen. It's how through education, through sensitization, through the media and more reportage about this, we can contribute to this mindset to be changed for the best.
Yes, because we have really beautiful landscapes. We have really beautiful nature and beautiful mountains. So it's really shame to treat them like we treat them for 30 years now. So you mentioned you are hiking. So what's your favorite mountain? What's your favorite place for hiking?
I don't know, actually. There are many places that I love, but I think the one that is maybe the most beautiful because it's quite unique is when you are between the Auric Lake and Prespa Lake on Galicia. It's amazing because of the view and there the nature is well protected, and those hiking there, they take their trash with them. So it's, you see, there's again, you still have positive vibes and people do care. But I think that place is quite unique because of those two lakes, and then you have the view, and just thinking of it now, I feel at peace. Like, it's so beautiful.
Will you miss North Macedonia when you go back to Switzerland?
Of course, I will miss North Macedonia, and I'm sure I will come back to visit. But I also miss Switzerland now because I've been abroad for 12 years, and I feel like it's time to go back for a short while also in Switzerland to also enjoy my country, the people there, and the nature there. But of course, I will miss a lot of things in North Macedonia, in particular my team and some are here today.
And how clean it is in Switzerland. Actually, I guess you miss that the most.
So then I come back in 6 years, and I'm sure there will be some progress. Hopefully. If not, then I come on your show again.
I truly hope so. And I will take you for granted of that. So see you again next time you're here. So Switzerland is an example, as I mentioned, for many things, but especially for a multilingual and multicultural society. You have 4 official languages, French, German, Italian, and Romansh. So in March, you were supposed to mark the Francophony month here in Skopje, but this tragic accident, this fire happened in Kočani, so everything was postponed. But now I hear it is back on track, I guess. And one more thing I want to ask. Last year, you organized Sound of Green Festival. I unfortunately was not here, but my colleagues said it was a great event. So what can we expect this year, and how will you mark Francophony month here?
Before, I would like to express my deepest condolences for Kočani. I think it's extremely difficult to overcome such a trauma, and I'm really thinking of all the families and the children that were affected. So really, here are my sincere condolences for this drama. Coming back to the Francophony, so yes, the Francophony, which was supposed to be in March, we'll have two events towards the end of June. We'll have the film festival for the Francophony, starting, I think, on the 21st or 22nd of June. That will be at the Cinémathèque. And we'll have a Swiss movie, which is called Le Procès du Chien, so the trial of the dog, which brings us to another important topic, what is the relation between people or human being and animals, especially dogs and cats. Do they have any rights or not? So it's a kind of a comedy. It's a very light, but actually the topic is a very serious one. And just the day after, on the 26th, I think, of June, we'll have the Green Festival again this year. So Switzerland will be there also. We hope to replicate the success of last year. We are partnering also with Pacomac on that festival. So it will be on the 26th in Skopje. I cannot tell you yet exactly the location. There is some ongoing tractation here, but soon it will be known. So two events coming.
Miss it this year for sure.
This year for sure. In 2025.
And the film is in French, right?
Yes, the film is French, but you will have subtitle, of course, in Macedonian and Albanian.
Great. So thank you very much for these answers. We are slowly bringing this interview to an end. So I would like to ask you a question on global context. We didn't expect it to have this many wars around the world in 21st century, but now we have a war raging in European soil for over 3 years. We have another war on the Middle East, and we have a really turbulent presidents or governance in few big or important countries in the world. So basically, the whole world is in a mess. So when do you expect this madness to end? When do you expect these wars to end, especially the European one?
I would love to have the answer, but I have no answer to that. What I can say is that I think, yes, the world is in a difficult situation now. You have crises everywhere. You have mentioned some of those very violent and bad wars with a lot of victims. There's also Sudan that we mentioned last, but there are many, many around the world. I think 120 wars are ongoing now. I think we really need to mobilize and to fight for the values that created the world as we look and know it now after the First and Second World War. We need to fight for those values to be respected and not to let them go. But I don't have the answer when this will be over. I think it will take time. And even if the wars are over, by the time people will recover from these wars, it will take again a lot of time. Reconstruction, not only physical, but also mentally, so that you will need a lot of time. So I don't have the answer, but we need to keep hope and to fight for what we believe. And I think the basic values anchored in the UN Charter, in your constitution, in the Constitution of Switzerland, we need to fight for those. Otherwise, we might lose those values. And they're not Western values. They are universal values. So I think they have to come back in the center. We need really to find a way to stand for them. I don't have the answer how, but I think each of us have a role to play. Being a minister, a prime minister, a president, a teacher, a diplomat, a journalist, somebody from the private sector, we all have a role to play here. And we need to mobilize to stand for those values. This is what I can say.
Yeah, let's hope that this will end soon.
I really
It doesn't look like that, but let's be optimists.
Let's be positively
end.
surprised.
Yes.
Hopefully.
Thank you very much for coming to my studio. At the very end, I just have to ask because my producer, Victor, he said not to let you go out of my studio until I ask you this question. Swiss cheese or Galician cheese?
Oh, don't ask me. I'm a diplomat. I cannot say that. Both are really good and excellent.
Come on, we need a clear answer. Maybe
So we have to
1% better than the other. Thank you very much for coming to my studio. I'm very sorry. This is the last few months of your stay in Skopje. It was very good having you here. So I'm sure you will have fun in the next few summer months while you're here, and you will have good memories from Macedonians and North Macedonia when you go back home. Thank you very much. Again, it was my pleasure having you.
Thank you very much, Christina. It was also my pleasure to be here today. Thanks a lot.
Ви благодарам за вниманието со кое не следевте. Тоа беше амбасадорката на Швајцарија, Вероник Хулман. Се гледаме повторно следната недела. Довидување.